Thank you, Casey. And now we're going to move on to the theory part of our presentation. But before we do that, I wanted to start with this activity to kind of lead into a discussion about the theories. So in groups of 2 or 3, just with the people you're sitting next to, think about your favorite teacher in your K through 12 experience. This could be any kind of teacher at all, just the first person that comes to your head. And in your groups, talk about who the teacher is and what he or she taught, and then also why that teacher was your favorite. So really think about the why. It's going to be important for our discussion about the theories. So take a minute to think about it if you need it, and then talk about it with your group. Okay, so thank you for that discussion. It's a great lead-in. I heard some things that were a great lead into the discussion, and also things that we can talk about. So some of you mentioned that your favorite teachers challenged you and supported you in the process and pushed you to do better. And then some of you said that your favorite teacher was someone who you liked to go hang out with, and you felt that you could relate to the teacher, I guess. So for those of you who brought up teachers that really supported you throughout the process and encouraged you to work harder and believed in you, I really want to focus on that idea today. So with that in mind, let's get into the kind of nitty-gritty discussion about direct implicit theories of intelligence. So Casey mentioned this in her video about the nature versus nurture thing. And I just want to go back to that and re-emphasize the importance of that point. So basically, the premise of nature versus nurture is that we do get some genetic influences on our personalities and our intelligence from our parents, let's just say. However, there is a huge part of what shapes us is coming from the environment. So there's a lot of nurture in there, and it's mostly nurture. And with that in mind, why it's so important to this theory is students are greatly influenced by their classroom environment. And Catherine's going to speak to this a little bit later, but how we act in the classroom and how we interact with students is very important, and that's one of the major premises of this idea in this presentation. So, what is Dweck's implicit theories of intelligence? Basically, it's broken into 2 parts, incremental or growth mindset versus entity or fixed mindset. And for the first one, I'll briefly explain it before the video. Incremental or growth mindset is when you believe that intelligence is something that you can change with effort. And then entity or fixed mindset is kind of on the other end of the spectrum, where you view intelligence as something that's unchangeable. It's not in your control, and it's something that is fixed, and again, you can't change it no matter how much work you put into it. So with that said, I want to go to the video and have it explain it a little bit more in depth. And again, you'll also have all of these videos to take home with you. They'll be in our faculty share drive, so you can just look at them whenever you want a refresher or want to learn more about it.
This slide illustrates how students view themselves, and even further, their capabilities about a certain task based on how they view intelligence. As a result, students with incremental versus entity beliefs will view high effort and failure differently. For students with incremental beliefs, high effort just means they will succeed by working hard, and failure means they didn't try hard enough. Failure and mistakes are okay, in other words. Students with incremental beliefs are more likely to persist through challenging problems and shy away from difficulties. Again, these students will view intelligence as something that is in their control and mistakes as a natural part of the learning process. On the other hand, students with entity beliefs do not see intelligence as in their control and thus think of it as an ability. You can either do problems or you can't. You're either smart or dumb, etc. They are less likely to take on challenging problems and persist through difficult work. Students who hold entity beliefs are also more likely to negatively compare themselves to their peers. One major piece that influences student beliefs is how educators give praise. There are 2 types of praise, ability and effort. An example of ability praise is saying, "You're so smart." Ultimately, when teachers praise student ability, it implies the student is succeeding based on how smart they are, not how much work they put into it. Therefore, At the end of the day, you send the message that getting problems wrong implies you are dumb. Ability praise can lead to students holding entity mindsets about intelligence, while effort praise leads to incremental mindsets about intelligence. When we as educators praise effort, students are more likely to develop incremental beliefs and view their intelligence as something they can improve with sustained work. An example of effort praise would be, wow, you worked really hard on this assignment.
Okay. So as you can see, we are part of the student's environment. And as part of the student's environment, we play a critical role in how we help students believe or view their intelligence. So that's kind of a brief summary to highlight the main points of that video. And then here are some articles that demonstrate research that supports this theory. There's a lot out there if you want to do your own self-exploration. We do have these full 2 citations at the very end that Catherine can show you when she comes up here to do her part. So just hold on for a second on the research, but it's there and it supports that whole theory. And again, you'll have the full citations with you when you leave this room. And then just a brief summary again before we move on to the implications in the classroom and what you can do in regards to strategies. Praising effort is what we want to do in the classrooms. When we praise students' efforts, we are helping them shape those incremental beliefs and mindsets where they think, hey, my intelligence is in my control. If I just work a little bit harder, I can succeed and get this problem. So they're more persistent, and they also have a higher self-efficacy, meaning that they believe that they can do a task eventually at least. And then praising ability is something that we want to avoid, because when we do, we're telling them that we are praising their ability, not the work that they're putting into it. So again, when they get problems wrong, they think that they just can't do it and that they're done. So to move on, Catherine's going to come and do her part and walk you through the strategies that you can use in the classroom.
Okay, thanks, Molly. Now that you all have learned a lot about this theory, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can actually apply it in the classroom. That way, this will be the most useful way to spend your time with us. So to do that, we have a little video that I helped create, and again, all of it is research-based. We'll get to the references for that at the end.
Clip will describe 6 strategies you can use in the classroom based on Dweck's implicit theories of intelligence. Teachers should work to ensure students believe they can improve and help students understand that their hard work will be worth it. The tips I will describe include ways to support this overall goal. Strategy number 1, praise effort, not ability. Being careful of the language we use around students is very important. As described earlier, it is best to genuinely praise strong effort than to praise students for their ability. Remember the subtle message you can send over time. Tell students that hard work pays off. This can be best illustrated through examples of successful people who got to where they are through sustained effort over time. Many students will believe successful people were just born that way. However, more often than not, successful individuals fail repeatedly, learn from their mistakes, and keep trying before they gain their success. Strategy number 3, treat failure as a part of the learning process. Make your classroom a safe environment for failure. Explain to students that failure is how people learn, and it is okay. It is best if you can also model such behavior yourself, so students observe this attitude coming from you as well. If they believe making mistakes is okay, they will be more likely to try again. In Willingham, the book we've been referencing, he uses the example of Michael Jordan, which is a relevant example to many students. Because Michael Jordan did not originally make his high school basketball team, learn from his initial failure, he is a great example to use for this strategy. Strategy number 4, ensure students have appropriate study skills. As work gets more demanding, often slower learners begin to struggle due to a gap in knowledge of study skills. which can be easy to overlook sometimes. Take the time to teach the necessary skills for more difficult work so that students feel more comfortable and prepared to take on challenging problems. For example, teaching students how to break down problems into manageable chunks or making proximal study goals to space out their studying may help them with learning the material. Strategy number 5, make catching up a long-term goal. Emphasize that learning things takes time. Teachers can set interim goals for students to assist the process of getting them where they need to be to succeed. This way, students will likely believe their goals to success are much more manageable and in their control. Strategy number 6, which is the last strategy we will cover today. Show students you have confidence in them. In other words, set high but appropriate expectations for all students and convey this message to them. If you allow students to submit substandard work, then your acceptance says you do not believe the student could do any better, which can lead to entity beliefs, which we do not want. When you believe in students, they are more likely to believe in themselves.
Okay, so now you have 6 strategies that you can actually use in the classroom. Does anyone have any questions about the video? Okay, well, we will all be available after this presentation in case you do think of some. So to wrap up our entire presentation, you all as teachers have a great influence over how students view their intelligence. The way that they view their intelligence really does matter. That's what we've been reiterating throughout the presentation. We want our students to believe that they have some control over how they do in school. That control translates into working hard. By us changing something as simple as praising effort, saying great job, well done, I like to see that hard work, then we can truly make an impact on students and how they view education and their ability to change their pathway for the future, especially if they are struggling right now. So, moral of the story, you all do have more influence than maybe you even knew before. And now hopefully you'll have these 6 strategies that you can actually put into place in your classroom. So here's a little quote just to wrap things up, and we hope that you'll take away from this that learning is a process, and it should be treated as such. Thus, when we're working together within the school, we should think back to some of these theories and strategies we've been covering. That way we can best ensure that our students are successful and feel good about themselves. So here are the resources that we've been discussing. We do have copies of them in case any of you would like to read further into the research behind what we've been discussing today. We also have links to all of the different locations that we got some of our definitions in case that's helpful to you. Finally, bringing it full circle, this is the book, the Willingham book we talked about. It's incredibly affordable. It's also a very easy, kind of quick read. Some people even read it when they're on vacation, and I know we have summer coming up. So if any of you would like a copy, we each have one. You are welcome to borrow ours. So we really do recommend this book, and again, this is where we're coming from today. So does anyone have any last questions for any of the 3 of us? Okay, great. Thanks for your participation today, and we'll see you all soon.